My name is Tori Young. I'm 52 years old. 3 weeks ago, my 78-year-old father called me crying, the first time I'd heard him cry in my entire life, begging me to come help because family helps family. For 30 years, I was the invisible daughter, the one who wasn't worth a college fund, the one who watched my sister Victoria receive everything: the house down payment, the luxury car, the dream wedding, the endless emergency loans. My parents called her their success story. They called me just Tori. But when they both needed full-time care, when the doctors said they couldn't live alone anymore, they didn't call their golden child. They called me. I asked my father one question. Have you tried calling your successful daughter? The silence lasted 47 seconds. What I discovered in those 47 seconds, and what happened at the family meeting that followed, changed everything I thought I knew about my family, my sister, and myself. Before I tell you what happened next, if you've ever felt invisible in your own family, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story truly resonates with you. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. The summer of 1989 was supposed to be exciting. I was 15, Victoria was 18, and our house buzzed with preparations for her departure to college. My parents threw a party, not just any party, a send-off celebration with 40 guests, catered food, and a banner that read, "Congratulations, Victoria, future business leader." I spent that evening carrying trays of appetizers, refilling drinks, clearing plates. My mother had handed me an apron that morning and said, "Make yourself useful, honey. This is your sister's big day." I didn't sit at the main table. I ate standing in the kitchen between trips to the dining room. My father gave a speech. His voice cracked with pride as he announced they were giving Victoria $40,000 for her 4 years at university. The guests applauded. Victoria cried happy tears. My mother beamed. No one looked at me. Later that night, after the guests left and I finished washing dishes, I found my father in his study. "Dad, what about my college fund?" He didn't look up from his paperwork. "We'll see, Tori. Not everyone is cut out for college. You're more practical." 3 years later, when I wanted to enroll in nursing school, I brought it up again. "We already spent your college fund on your sister," my mother said gently, patting my hand. "But nursing school is cheaper anyway. You'll figure it out." I did figure it out. I worked 2 jobs for 3 years, waitressing nights, filing at a medical office during the day, to pay my own way through nursing school. Victoria graduated debt-free with a business degree and a car our parents bought her as a graduation gift. I didn't know then that those words, "We already spent your college fund," were just the beginning of a pattern that would last 3 decades. The wedding was in June of 1998. Victoria married Robert Ashford, a young attorney with a firm handshake and a confident smile. She called him her ticket to the life she deserved. My parents spent $85,000 on that wedding. I know because my mother mentioned it at least a dozen times, always with pride, never with hesitation. "A daughter only gets married once," she'd say. "We want it to be perfect." I was a bridesmaid. I paid $400 for a dress I'd never wear again. When I asked if the bridal party expenses might be covered, Victoria laughed. "Tori, it's not that much. Just put it on a credit card." 3 years later, Marcus proposed to me. He was an electrician, steady work, calloused hands, kind eyes. My parents gave us $2,000. "You understand," my father said, sliding the check across the table. "Marcus seems like a practical man. He won't need a big wedding." Practical, that word again. My mother didn't come to my dress fitting. She was busy that day, helping Victoria move into her new house, the one my parents had put $50,000 down on. "It's an investment in her future," my father explained when I asked why Victoria needed help buying a house when Robert was a lawyer. "They're just starting out." That house was 3 blocks away from the 1-bedroom apartment Marcus and I were renting. At my small wedding, 60 guests, backyard ceremony, potluck reception, I watched my father dance with Victoria while my mother fussed over whether Victoria's shoes were comfortable. I told myself it was fine. I told myself I didn't need their money. But what I really needed, what I desperately needed, was for them to see me. I wouldn't understand just how blind they were until the phone call that came 23 years later. The phone rang at 2:17 a.m. on a Tuesday. I know the exact time because I stared at the screen for 3 full seconds before answering. My father's name glowed in the darkness. He hadn't called me in 6 months. Dad? The sound that came through the speaker stopped my heart. My father was crying. Not just crying, sobbing, gasping. The kind of raw, broken sound I'd never heard from him in 52 years of life. Tori, it's your mother. She fell. In the bathroom. I heard the crash and his voice cracked. I can't lift her. I don't know what to do. There's blood. I was already out of bed, pulling on clothes. Dad, listen to me. Call 911 right now. I'm on my way. The hospital was 20 minutes from my house. I made it in 12. When I arrived, my mother was already in surgery. A broken hip, a bad one, the kind that changes everything for someone her age. My father sat slumped in a plastic chair, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. Mr. Young? A doctor approached us. Dr. Morrison, according to his badge. Your wife's surgery will take several hours. But I need to discuss something with you. He explained it carefully. My mother would need extensive rehabilitation, 3 months minimum. And my father, he paused, glancing at his notes, had shown concerning signs during the intake assessment. Confusion, disorientation, early indicators of cognitive decline. They can't continue living independently, Dr. Morrison said. You'll need to make arrangements for full-time care. My father looked at me with desperate eyes. I'd spent 15 years as a geriatric care nurse. I knew exactly what full-time care meant. I knew the facilities, the costs, the slow erosion of savings that came with aging. What I didn't know yet was who my family expected to handle all of it. The next afternoon, I found my father sitting beside my mother's hospital bed. She was still groggy from surgery, drifting in and out of sleep. He looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. Tori. He gestured for me to sit. We need to talk about what happens next. I sat. I waited. Your mother and we're going to need help. Real help. He rubbed his face with both hands. Someone to be there, to manage the medications, to make sure we're safe. I understand, Dad. You're a nurse. This is what you do. He looked at me with something I couldn't quite read. Family helps family, Tori. The words hung in the air between us. Have you called Victoria? Silence. 1 second, 5 seconds, 10. 47 seconds. I counted. Your sister is busy, he finally said. She has her own problems. What problems? He didn't answer. Instead, he shifted in his chair and said something that cut deeper than any silence. You've always been the reliable one, Tori. The one who doesn't complain. Victoria, He paused. She's more fragile. She wouldn't handle this well. Fragile. The woman who had demanded an $85,000 wedding was fragile. The woman who received a house down payment was fragile. But me, I was reliable. I thought about the 2 jobs I'd worked through nursing school, the $400 bridesmaid dress, the decades of watching from the outside. Dad, what exactly are you asking me to do? He listed it without hesitation. Coordinate their care, manage their medications, handle the medical decisions, visit regularly, be available. And Victoria? She'll help when she can. In 30 years, that was the first time my father had ever called me reliable. It felt less like a compliment and more like a confession, an admission that they'd always known who they could count on. They just never thought I was worth investing in. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with Marcus. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the weight of everything unsaid. What did Victoria say? Marcus asked. Dad didn't call her. Marcus set down his coffee cup. He didn't look surprised. Of course he didn't. I pulled out a notepad and started writing numbers. It's what I do when I'm overwhelmed. Reduce chaos to calculations. Full-time caregiving meant quitting my job or cutting my hours drastically. That was $65,000 a year, gone. Professional in-home care ran $8,000 to $12,000 monthly. Assisted living facilities weren't much better. Their savings? Marcus asked. Maybe enough for 18 months, 2 years if we're careful. And if Victoria doesn't help? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Marcus reached across the table and took my hand. His palms were rough from years of electrical work, but his grip was gentle. You've been saying yes to people who never see you, he said quietly. Maybe it's time to ask them why. I thought about every yes I'd given over 30 years. Yes to working through nursing school alone. Yes to a small wedding because we were practical. Yes to being overlooked at every holiday, every milestone, every family gathering where Victoria stood in the spotlight. What if I say yes again? I whispered. What if I just do what they expect? Then nothing changes. Marcus squeezed my hand. You'll disappear a little more every day, and they'll never even notice. He didn't tell me what to do. He never did. He just held my hand and said, whatever you decide, I'm here. But you deserve to be more than their backup plan. The next morning, I did something I'd never done in 30 years. I called Victoria myself. She answered on the 6th ring. Her voice was thick with sleep even though it was 9 in the morning. Hello? Victoria, it's Tori. A pause, a yawn. What time is it? 9. Mom fell. She's in the hospital. What? Suddenly she sounded more alert. When did this happen? 2 days ago. 2 days? Why didn't anyone call me? Dad said you were busy. Silence stretched between us. I heard rustling, sheets maybe, a door closing. I am busy, Tori. I have things going on. Mom needs surgery. She broke her hip. Dad's showing signs of cognitive decline. They need full-time care now. So what do you want me to do about it? The question hit me like ice water. Help. Share the responsibility. She sighed, long and heavy. You know I'm not good at that stuff. What stuff? Taking care of our parents? The medical things, the organizing, that's your world, Tori. It doesn't have to be just my world. Look, her voice hardened. You're the nurse. This is literally your job. You know how to handle old people. Old people, our parents. Victoria, they need money too. Care facilities cost thousands every month. I don't have money right now. You have the house, the one Mom and Dad bought for you. Dead silence. Victoria, I don't have that house anymore. What do you mean? I sold it 3 years ago, after the divorce. I felt the floor shift beneath me. The house my parents had sacrificed $50,000 to secure. Gone. And the money from the sale? That's none of your business. In 15 years of being a nurse, no one had ever made my profession feel so small. But it wasn't the dismissal that stung most. It was the absolute certainty in her voice that this was my problem to solve. Victoria, I need you to explain this to me. Explain what? My finances? To you? If you can't contribute, I need to understand why. Another long sigh. I heard something in the background. A man's voice, muffled. She covered the phone, spoke to someone, then came back. Fine. You want the truth? I'm drowning, okay? Drowning how? Credit cards, living expenses. Robert cleaned me out in the divorce. I had to sell the house just to survive. How much debt? She laughed, bitter, sharp. $89,000. I sat down, hard. 89,000? Don't judge me, Tori. I'm not judging. I'm trying to understand. No, you're doing what you always do, looking down at me from your perfect little life. looking down at her. The words made no sense. I'd spent 30 years looking up at Victoria, the successful one, the golden child, the daughter worth investing in. My perfect little life? I kept my voice steady. I worked 2 jobs to pay for nursing school. But you didn't have to live up to anything, because they never expected anything from me. Exactly! She sounded almost triumphant. No expectations, no disappointments. You got to just be you. I had to be everything. Victoria, our mother is lying in a hospital bed right now. And you'll handle it. You always do. That's not fair. Fair? She laughed again, but this time it cracked at the edges. Since when has anything in this family been fair? For one moment, I heard something underneath her defensiveness. Something that sounded almost like pain. But before I could respond, she cut in. I'll try to visit when I can. But don't expect me to move back or write checks I can't cash. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, looking down on her. The words echoed. And I realized Victoria wasn't the successful one. She was the one who'd learned how to fail without consequences. I called her back. She didn't answer the first time, or the second. On the third try, she picked up with an exhausted groan. What now, Tori? We weren't finished. I think we were. No, you said I looked down on you. I need to understand that. I don't have time for therapy with my little sister. Victoria, for 30 years you got everything. The money, the attention, the house, the car, the wedding. And somehow you've convinced yourself that I had it easier? You did. Her voice was flat, certain. You married Marcus, simple job, simple life, no one watching, no one expecting you to be extraordinary. I expected myself to be extraordinary, I just didn't need an audience. That's easy to say when what? When I'm paying my own mortgage? When I have retirement savings? When I'm not $89,000 in debt? Silence. That was cruel, Tori. It was the truth. More silence. I could hear her breathing, ragged, uneven. You want me to say I'm sorry? She finally asked. For taking what they offered? For being the daughter they wanted to give to? I want you to show up. For once in your life, I want you to take responsibility. I can't fix this. I'm not asking you to fix it. I'm asking you to help. Same thing. It's not. She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller, almost young. I don't know how to be what everyone needs, Tori. Then learn. We all had to. The call ended. This time, I was the one who hung up. I sat in my kitchen, phone in hand, and made a decision. I would help my parents, but not the way they expected. What Victoria didn't know, what none of them knew yet, was that her financial situation wasn't the only truth about to become public. The next morning, I drove to my parents' house to gather some things for the hospital, clothes for my father, my mother's reading glasses, her insurance paperwork. Their house smelled like dust and old coffee. Dishes sat in the sink, mail was piled by the door. Without my mother's daily routines, the place had started to unravel. I found the insurance documents in my father's study, filed in a battered metal cabinet he'd had since I was a child. But as I rifled through the folders, my fingers touched something unexpected. A notebook, worn leather cover. My mother's handwriting on the first page, family records. I shouldn't have opened it. It felt like trespassing. But something made me flip to the first page. Dates, names, dollar amounts. My mother had been keeping meticulous records since 1985. Victoria. College tuition, $40,000 Victoria. Graduation car, $12,000. Victoria. Wedding, $85,000. Victoria. House down payment, $50,000. The list went on. Page after page, birthday gifts. Emergency loans that were never repaid. A vacation to Europe. A new wardrobe for a job interview. Dental work. Credit card payments. I flipped to my section. Tori. Wedding gift, $2,000. Tori, baby shower, $300. Tori, kitchen appliances, Christmas 1998, $400. 4 pages for Victoria, half a page for me. I did the math in my head, then double-checked it. The numbers couldn't be right, but they were. The final entry was dated 3 months ago in my mother's shaky handwriting. Victoria called. Needs $15,000. Emergency. Harold says no more. I don't know what to do. 15,000 more. After everything. I photographed each page with my phone. My hands were trembling, but my mind was clear. My mother had been tracking every penny for 40 years. She knew exactly what they'd given, and to whom. The only question was whether she'd ever let herself see what those numbers really meant. I kept searching. Behind the insurance folder, I found their financial statements, bank records, investment accounts, the architecture of my parents' retirement. What I discovered made my stomach drop. Their savings account held $127,000. That sounded like a lot until I calculated what full-time care actually cost. I pulled out more papers, withdrawal records going back 10 years. Every few months, another chunk disappeared. 5,000 here, 10,000 there, 20,000 in one devastating swoop. The pattern was clear. Over the past decade, my parents had withdrawn more than $200,000. Almost all of it had gone to Victoria. Money for the divorce, money for starting over, money that was now buried under $89,000 of credit card debt. Their life insurance was minimal. Their long-term care insurance was non-existent. Medicare would cover hospital stays, but not assisted living, not in-home care. I called Diane Reeves, a colleague who managed a memory care facility downtown. She'd been in geriatric care even longer than I had. Their finances? She asked after I explained. Maybe $130,000 total. She was quiet for a moment. With their level of need, that gives them maybe 18 months in a decent facility. 2 years if you stretch it. After that, you're looking at Medicaid applications, spend downs. It gets complicated. What about family contribution? That helps. But Tori, she paused. The hospital is going to want a family meeting before discharge. That's standard for cases like this. A family meeting, where everything, their finances, their plans, their expectations, would have to be laid out in front of everyone. Tori? Diane's voice softened. This is going to get ugly. Make sure you protect yourself. I thanked her and hung up. Thanked her. Then I sat in my parents' dusty study, surrounded by 40 years of unequal love, written in my mother's careful handwriting, and began to plan. That night, I spread everything across our kitchen table. Bank statements, the notebook, my phone full of photographs. Marcus looked at it all without speaking. What are you going to do with this? He finally asked. I don't know yet, but I'm not going in blind anymore. Tori. He picked up one of the photos, Victoria's page, the one with the running total. This is $342,000, over 40 years. He set it down. And you? 7,400. Neither of us spoke. The numbers said everything. I spent the next hour scanning the most important pages, creating digital backups. Then I called Thomas Bradley, an elder care attorney Marcus knew from a job site years ago. Family meetings at hospitals are standard, Thomas explained. They're meant to clarify responsibilities before discharge. Nothing you say there is legally binding. Can they force Victoria to contribute? Legally? No. Adult children aren't obligated to pay for parents' care unless they've signed something. But socially, morally, he paused. That's a different story. What do you mean? Hospitals document these meetings. Social workers take notes. If one family member makes promises and doesn't follow through, that goes on record. It can affect how facilities view the family, how payment plans get structured. So it matters. It matters a lot. I thanked him and hung up. The family meeting was scheduled for Thursday, 4 days away. I had one more call to make. Victoria's phone rang 5 times before going to voicemail. I left a message, keeping my voice even. Victoria, there's a family meeting at the hospital on Thursday, 10 a.m. You need to be there even if it's by video call. I paused. Don't make me explain why. I wasn't planning revenge. I wasn't planning a confrontation. I was planning clarity. After 30 years, I just wanted everyone to see the truth. Now, before I tell you what happened at that family meeting, I'm curious about something. If you were in my shoes, would you have shared what you found in that notebook, or would you have kept it to yourself? Type share or silent in the comments. I really want to know. And if you're still with me, please give this video a quick like. It helps more people find these stories. Okay, back to what happened next. Thursday morning, 10 a.m., the hospital's family conference room. The space was aggressively neutral, beige walls, fluorescent lights, a long rectangular table with uncomfortable chairs, a large TV screen mounted on one wall for video calls. The kind of room where difficult decisions are made under harsh lighting. Marcus sat beside me, his hand resting near mine on the table. He'd taken the day off work without me asking. My father arrived pushing my mother in a wheelchair. She looked smaller than I remembered, fragile in her hospital gown, but her eyes were alert, more alert than they'd been in days. Dr. Morrison came in with a folder thick with papers. Behind him was Rachel Smith, the hospital social worker, a composed woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a clipboard. "We're just waiting for one more," Rachel said, glancing at the screen. The TV flickered to life. Victoria appeared, perfectly made up, sitting in what looked like an elegant living room, cream-colored walls, fresh flowers on a side table. Her new husband Brandon hovered in the background. "Can everyone hear me?" Victoria asked, adjusting her camera angle. "Loud and clear," Rachel confirmed. 2 more faces joined the call. My Aunt Linda, my father's younger sister, and Aunt Margaret, my mother's side. Both were in their 70s, watching from their respective homes across the country. "Thank you all for being here," Rachel began. "The purpose of this meeting is to develop a discharge plan for Mr. and Mrs. Young." Dr. Morrison reviewed the medical facts. My mother's hip surgery, the rehabilitation timeline, my father's cognitive assessment. "They cannot live independently anymore," he concluded. "They'll need consistent daily support." On screen, Victoria checked her phone. Twice. Rachel turned to face the room. "We need to decide as a family who will be responsible for what, financially and practically." The air in the room changed. I felt Marcus's hand brush against mine. It was beginning. Rachel looked around the room, then at the screen. "Let's start by hearing from everyone. What resources and support can each family member contribute?" Victoria jumped in before anyone else could speak. "I want to be really transparent here." She leaned toward her camera, expression earnest. "Brandon and I are going through a difficult time financially. We just got married 6 months ago, and we're still rebuilding after my divorce." Aunt Linda nodded sympathetically on her side of the video call. "We understand, dear. These things take time." "It's been so hard," Victoria continued, "starting over at my age. I wish I could do more, but—" Rachel turned to me. "And what about you, Mrs. Young?" Before I could answer, Victoria cut in again. "Oh, Tori can handle it." She said it like it was obvious, like it had already been decided. "She's a nurse. She's used to this kind of thing." I felt my father nod beside me. "That's right. Tori has experience with—" "Plus," Victoria added, "she doesn't have the same pressures I do. Her lifestyle is more manageable." My mother's eyes flickered toward me, then away. Aunt Margaret cleared her throat. "It does make sense when you think about it. Tori has the skills." "Exactly," Victoria said. "I mean, I would help, I really would. But you know how I am." She gave a self-deprecating laugh. "I'd probably just make things worse. Tori's always been so good at the unglamorous stuff." The unglamorous stuff. 30 years of being invisible, reduced to 4 words. I looked at my mother. Her hands were folded in her lap. She wouldn't meet my eyes. She wasn't going to defend me. She never had. Marcus's knee pressed against mine under the table. A silent question. Are you ready? I took a breath. Before we decide who gives what going forward, I said, can we talk about what's already been given? The room went still. Victoria's smile faltered. What do you mean? I said, keeping my voice level, that Dad has been very generous with you over the years, Victoria. The house down payment, the car, the wedding, the emergencies. My father shifted in his chair. That's not relevant to this discussion. It's absolutely relevant. You're asking me to take on the majority of care. Victoria says she can't afford to help, but no one's talked about why she can't afford it. On screen, Victoria's expression hardened. Are you seriously bringing up money right now? Mom just had surgery. I'm not bringing up money. I'm bringing up fairness. Fairness? She laughed, but it came out brittle. You want to talk about fair? I'm the one who had to deal with all their expectations, the pressure. You got to live under the radar. Under the radar? I let the phrase sit. Is that what you call working 2 jobs through nursing school? Is that what you call paying my own way through everything? Aunt Linda looked uncomfortable. Maybe we should… No! I turned to face the video screen directly. Victoria, where's the house? The one Mom and Dad put $50,000 down on? Silence. You sold it, I said. 3 years ago. That's none of your business. Her voice was rising. It became my business when you said you couldn't help. Rachel Smith looked between me and the screen, then at my parents. I think it's important for everyone to understand the full picture here. My mother's hands tightened in her lap. My father stared at the table. And on the screen, something flickered across Victoria's face. Not guilt, not shame, fear. I reached into my bag. There's something I think everyone should see. I pulled out a folder and set it on the table. I found this at the house, I said, when I was looking for Mom's insurance papers. My mother's head lifted. For the first time since the meeting started, she looked directly at me. This is Mom's handwriting. I opened the folder to reveal photocopied pages. She's been keeping records of every financial gift to her children since 1985. I passed a copy to Rachel Smith. Her eyebrows rose as she scanned the pages. What is that? Victoria demanded from the screen. What are you showing them? I began reading aloud. My voice was steady. I'd practiced this. Victoria. College tuition. $40,000. Graduation car. $12,000. Wedding. $85,000. House down payment. $50,000. Between 1989 and last year, various emergency loans totaling $155,000. The numbers filled the room like stones dropping into water. In total, I said, over 40 years, Victoria has received approximately $342,000. Aunt Margaret gasped softly on screen. Aunt Linda's hand covered her mouth. And what does it say for you? Rachel asked gently. I turned to my section. Half a page. $7,400. Total. Victoria was shaking her head. Those are lies. Mom would never… I wrote that, Victoria. Every head turned toward my mother. Her voice was thin, trembling, but clear. I wrote all of it. Every penny, every date. She looked at the camera where Victoria's face had gone pale. It's all true. My father stared at the papers like he was seeing them for the first time. Maybe he was. Maybe he'd let my mother handle the details while he convinced himself it was all fair. The shame on his face told me he couldn't hide from the math anymore. No one could. This is insane, Victoria's voice pitched higher. You kept a ledger? Like were accounts to be balanced? My mother flinched but didn't look away from the screen. That money was for emergencies, Victoria continued, for opportunities. You never needed it, Tori. You were always fine on your own. I was fine because I had to be. You chose that life. Did I? I kept my voice low, controlled. Or was it chosen for me? Rachel Smith was taking notes, her pen moving steadily across her clipboard. "Let's stay focused on," she began. "No." Victoria cut her off. "I want to know what Tori thinks she's proving. That she's the martyr? The saint who suffered in silence?" "I'm not proving anything. I'm showing the truth. The truth is that I had more potential. I had more opportunities. That's why they invested in me." "And how did those investments pay off, Victoria?" She went still. "You sold the house," I said. "The one they bought you. You lost it." "I didn't lose anything. I made a financial decision." "You made a decision that left you $89,000 in credit card debt." Brandon shifted uncomfortably behind Victoria. Aunt Linda looked away. "You have no right," Victoria started. "I have every right. You're telling this family you can't contribute to our parents' care. I'm explaining why." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. $342,000 and you can't spare $200 a month? Victoria's eyes glistened. For a moment she looked young, lost. "You're trying to humiliate me." "No." I shook my head slowly. "I'm trying to tell the truth. For the first time in 30 years, I'm just telling the truth." The room was silent. My mother was crying quietly. And my father. My father couldn't look at anyone at all. Rachel Smith set down her pen. "I think we need to pause and acknowledge what we've heard here. There's clearly a significant history that's affecting this conversation." I nodded. "I'm not trying to punish anyone. I'm trying to be fair." "Fair," Victoria muttered on screen. "Yes. Fair." I turned to face the whole room. "Let me tell you what I have." I listed it simply. No pride, just facts. "Marcus and I own our home. We paid off the mortgage last year. We have retirement savings we've built over 25 years. I have 15 years of experience in geriatric care. I know the system. I know the facilities. I know what mom and dad actually need." I paused. "I can help. I have the skills, the resources, and honestly, the heart to help. But I won't do it as the invisible backup plan anymore." Aunt Margaret spoke up, her voice thick with emotion. "Tori, we had no idea things were this unequal. No one asked." The words weren't accusatory. They were just true. My father cleared his throat. When he spoke, his voice was rough, broken. "We did what we thought was best. Victoria always seemed to need more. She needed more because you taught her she deserved more." I looked at him, really looked at him. "And you taught me to expect less, so I learned to build everything myself." My mother reached out and gripped my father's hand. Her lips were trembling. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I thought Victoria needed it more. I thought you'd always be okay." "I wasn't always okay, Mom." My voice cracked for the first time. "I just learned not to ask." The silence that followed felt like something breaking open. And in that breaking, something shifted. "I love you both," I said quietly. "But love doesn't mean I have to erase myself." Rachel Smith leaned forward, her voice professionally calm. "I think it's clear there's a lot of history here. But my job is to make sure Mr. and Mrs. Young have a safe discharge plan." She pulled out a printed sheet, a list of options. "Let me walk through what we're looking at. Option 1, family provides direct care. That means someone is present 24/7, managing medications, meals, mobility." She looked around the room. No one volunteered. Option 2, assisted living facility. With their needs, you're looking at $6,000 to $10,000 per month. My father inhaled sharply. Option 3, in-home care with professional nurses, 4,000 to 8,000 monthly depending on hours. "And their savings?" Rachel asked, looking at me. "Around 130,000. So options 2 or 3 would be sustainable for roughly 12 to 18 months. After that, a Medicaid application would need to begin. That's a process." Victoria spoke up, her voice smaller now. What about the house they're living in now? Could that be sold?" My father looked like he'd been slapped. "You want us to sell our house?" "I'm just asking about options." That house is their security, I said. Their home of 45 years, the place where they raised us. I know what it is, Tori. Then you know it's not an ATM. Victoria's jaw tightened. That's not what I meant. Isn't it? I kept my voice even. The difference between us, Victoria, is this. I'm trying to figure out how to help them keep what they have. You're already calculating what's left to take. Brandon put his hand on Victoria's shoulder. She shrugged it off. This is unfair, she said. You're making me the villain. I'm not making you anything. I'm asking you to show up. On screen, Victoria opened her mouth to respond. And then she said something that changed everything. Okay, I need to pause here because what Victoria said next, I still can't believe she said it in front of everyone. Before I continue, I have a question. Who do you think should be responsible for caring for aging parents? The child who received everything, or the child who was self-sufficient? Tell me in the comments. I really want to hear your perspective. Now here's what she said. You know what? Victoria's voice was shaking now. Fine. You want to play this game, Tori? Let's play. She leaned into her camera, face flushed. Mom, Dad, did you know Tori didn't come to Thanksgiving last year, or Christmas? She's been pulling away from this family for years. She barely calls, barely visits. My father frowned. My mother looked confused. That's not, I started. Let me finish. Victoria held up her hand to the camera. She acts like she's the devoted daughter, but where was she for the holidays? Where was she when I was hosting, cooking, making everything perfect? I waited until she was done. Then I spoke calmly. I didn't come because I wasn't invited. That's ridiculous. You hosted both holidays at your house. I never received an invitation. I assumed I wasn't welcome. Victoria sputtered. Of course you were welcome. You just… Actually, Aunt Margaret interrupted, her face troubled on screen. I remember asking about Tori at Thanksgiving. Victoria, you said she was doing her own thing this year. The color drained from Victoria's face. You're misremembering. I'm not. Aunt Margaret's voice was firm. I asked specifically. I thought it was strange Tori wasn't there. My mother turned to look at Victoria on the screen. You told me Tori was busy. You said she had to work. She probably did. I wasn't working. I kept my voice steady. I was home, waiting for a call that never came. The room was silent. Even Rachel had stopped writing. Victoria had tried to make me look like the absent daughter. Instead, she'd revealed she was the one who'd kept me away. I didn't need to accuse her. She'd accused herself. Victoria's voice faltered. That's not how I remember it. It's how I remember it, Aunt Margaret said quietly. It's how I remember it too. I stood up, not dramatically, just to stretch my back, to feel my own feet on the ground. Here's what I'm willing to do. Everyone watched. Victoria on the screen, my parents, Rachel with her clipboard, Marcus beside me, solid and quiet. 1. I will help coordinate Mom and Dad's care. I have the expertise. I know the system. I can do that. Rachel nodded, making a note. 2. Marcus and I will contribute $1,500 per month toward their care costs. My father looked up sharply. That was real money, money I was offering freely. 3. I will visit twice a week. I'll manage their medications and be the point of contact for medical decisions. I let that settle. But the word hung in the air. I will not quit my job. I will not move them into my home. And I will not pretend this is fair if I'm the only one contributing. I looked directly at the screen. Victoria, that means you need to find a way to help. Even if it's $200 a month, even if it's visiting twice a year, you need to show up. I can't. You spent $89,000 on credit cards. You can find $200 a month. That's not fair. Neither was any of this. But here we are, Rachel Smith spoke up. These seem like reasonable starting points for a care plan. Victoria, can you commit to any level of financial contribution? The silence stretched. Brandon whispered something to Victoria. She shook her head, then sighed heavily. I'll see what I can do. I'm not asking for equal, I said. I'm asking for something, anything, because nothing is not acceptable anymore. Victoria didn't respond, but she didn't argue either. For the first time in 30 years, she had nothing to say. My father broke first. We didn't know. His voice was hoarse, barely audible. We didn't know it was this unequal. I looked at him, this man who had spent my whole life not seeing me. Yes, you did, Dad. Mom wrote it all down. My mother's shoulders were shaking. Tears ran down her cheeks, cutting tracks through her powder. I'm sorry. The words came out choked. I thought Victoria needed it more. She was always struggling, always asking. And you were so steady, Tori, so capable. So you gave her everything and left me to build my own life alone. I thought you were stronger. I had to be stronger. You didn't give me a choice. The silence that followed was unbearable. My father stared at his hands. My mother wept. On screen, Victoria had gone quiet, not from strategy, but from something that looked almost like shock. So that's it? Victoria finally said, her voice small. I'm the villain now? The bad daughter? I shook my head slowly. You're not a villain, Victoria. You're my sister. But you've spent 30 years being protected from consequences. This is what consequences look like. Aunt Linda spoke up softly. Victoria, maybe Tori has a point. I don't need you to defend her. Brandon's voice came through, quiet, firm. Victoria, we should talk about this later, at home. Victoria looked away from the camera, jaw tight. My mother reached out and took my hand. Her fingers were cold, fragile as bird bones. Forgive me, Tori, please. I looked at her, this woman who had counted every dollar for 40 years, but never counted what it cost me. I love you, Mom. My voice broke. I just needed you to see me. Finally. She squeezed my hand and nodded. I see you, she whispered. I see you now. The video call ended abruptly. Victoria's face disappeared from the screen without a goodbye. The room felt emptier afterward, hollowed out by everything that had been said. Rachel Smith gathered her papers, professional composure intact. I'll send everyone a summary of what we discussed today. The agreed contributions, the tentative care plan, next steps. She paused at the door. Family meetings are rarely easy, but honest ones tend to lead to better outcomes. She looked at me. You handled this well, Mrs. Young. I nodded. I didn't feel like I'd handled anything. I felt scraped raw. Dr. Morrison shook my father's hand and left. The Zoom boxes with my aunts winked out one by one. Aunt Margaret with a small wave. Aunt Linda with tears in her eyes. Then it was just us. My parents, Marcus, and me. My father sat motionless. He hadn't spoken since his attempt at apology. Harold, my mother's voice was gentle. Say something. He looked at me. His eyes were red. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything right now, Dad. Marcus helped me gather our things. As we headed for the door, my phone buzzed. A text from Aunt Linda. I had no idea things were this bad. Your father and I need to talk. I'm proud of you, Tori. Then another, from Aunt Margaret. Victoria is upset, but she needed to hear this. We all did. In 30 years, no one in my extended family had ever said they were proud of me. Marcus put his arm around my shoulders as we walked to the car. You didn't lose your cool once, he said. I didn't need to. I leaned into him, exhausted. The truth was cool enough. But even as I said it, I knew this wasn't over. The real aftermath was just beginning. 1 week after the meeting, pieces started falling into place. My mother transferred to a rehabilitation facility, a good one, 20 minutes from my house. Her hip was healing. The physical therapists were cautiously optimistic. My father stayed with Aunt Linda temporarily. Her house had a guest room on the ground floor, and she insisted. Harold needs time to think, she told me on the phone, and honestly, so do I. I spent hours coordinating with Diane, researching facilities, comparing costs. We found an assisted living community that could accommodate both of my parents eventually, a place with memory care support, in case my father's cognitive decline progressed. The cost? $7,200 per month. I'd already committed $1,500. My parents' savings could cover $4,500. That left $1,200. On Thursday, my father called me. I talked to your sister. And? She'll send money every month. $1,200. He paused. She didn't want to talk long, but she agreed. $1,200, not much, considering everything, but $1,200 more than I'd expected. And visits? She said she'd try. Trying. It wasn't a promise, it wasn't an apology, but it was something. Dad, I braced myself. I need to know something. Did you really not see how unequal things were? Silence on the line. Then, I told myself it was different. Victoria had opportunities. You had. He stopped, started again. I didn't see you, Tori. All these years, I didn't let myself see you. Why not? Because if I saw you, I'd have to see what I'd done, and I wasn't ready. Are you ready now? His voice cracked. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. 4 words. 30 years late, but they were the first real ones he'd ever given me. 2 weeks after the hospital meeting, my phone buzzed with an unexpected notification. Victoria. I stared at her name on my screen for a long moment before opening the message. I'm sending the first payment today. Brandon helped me set up a plan to manage my debt. I'm going to try. I read it 3 times, then I called Marcus into the kitchen. What do you think? I showed him the screen. He read it, face neutral. What do you want to say? I want to believe her. Then tell her that. I typed slowly, deleting and rewriting twice before landing on something true. Thank you, Victoria. That means a lot. I know this isn't easy. Her response came quickly. It's not. But you were right. I can't keep running from things. I waited. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. I don't know how to be different, but I'm trying. No apology. Not yet. Maybe never. But acknowledgement, real acknowledgement, was more than I'd had in decades. I typed, maybe we can visit Mom together next month? The pause before her answer stretched long enough that I thought she wouldn't respond. Maybe. Let me figure some things out first. It wasn't reconciliation. It wasn't forgiveness. It was 2 sisters trying to find a new language after 30 years of speaking different ones. Marcus looked over my shoulder at the exchange. Progress? Maybe. Or maybe she's just tired of fighting. Could be both. I set down my phone. Through the kitchen window, the sun was setting, orange and pink bleeding into purple. Victoria might never truly change. She might never apologize. But she'd shown up. Financially, at least. And for now, that was more than I'd had in 30 years. It was a start. It was so... A month after the hospital meeting, I visited my mother alone. She'd been moved to the assisted living facility, a quiet room with a window overlooking a garden. Her hip was healing well. Some days her mind was sharp. Others, she drifted. Today was a sharp day. I found her sitting by the window, watching birds at a feeder outside. When I came in, she turned and smiled. Tori, sit with me. I pulled a chair close and took her hand. For a while we didn't speak. The silence wasn't uncomfortable, just full of everything we'd said and everything we hadn't. Your father showed me the notebook again, she finally said. All my numbers. I know, Mom. I always knew they were unequal. I knew what I was writing. She looked at me, eyes clearer than I'd seen them in weeks. I just didn't let myself see what they meant. Why not? She was quiet for a moment, collecting her thoughts. Victoria was like fire, bright and demanding and always hungry. I was afraid that if I didn't feed her, she'd burn out, disappear. She squeezed my hand. And you were like water, steady, patient. I thought you'd always be okay. I wasn't always okay, Mom. I know that now. Her voice dropped. I know. Then why didn't you ever? Because it was easier to believe you didn't need me. Because needing me would mean I had failed you. Tears gathered in her eyes. And I had failed you, I just couldn't admit it. I didn't say it was okay. It wasn't. But I leaned forward and kissed her forehead. I love you, Mom. I love you too. She held my face in her thin hands. Forgive me. Please. I'm trying, I said honestly. I'm really trying. It was all I could give her. For now, it was enough. 6 months passed. Life didn't become perfect. It became manageable. And sometimes, that's enough. My parents settled into the assisted living community, sharing a 2-bedroom suite. My mother's hip healed completely. My father's cognitive decline progressed slowly. He had good days and bad days, but mostly good. They had nurses, activities, people their own age to talk to. Victoria sent money every month. Not once did she miss a payment. She visited twice in those 6 months. Short visits, awkward and careful, but she came. She sat with our parents. She asked about their health. She didn't apologize to me. I stopped waiting for it. Our relationship wasn't warm. We didn't call each other just to chat. But when we did speak, it was civil, sometimes even kind. We were learning to be sisters again, in a limited way. My father asked to talk to me one afternoon. We sat in the facility's garden, watching clouds move across a blue sky. I've been thinking, he said slowly, about what I did, why I did it. And I thought providing for Victoria was investing in the family's future. She had the degree, the ambitions. I thought she'd make something of herself and take care of us all. He shook his head. I was investing everything in one stock and leaving the other with nothing. Interesting metaphor, Dad. He almost smiled. Your mother's idea. She's sharper than she lets on. We sat in silence for a while. You turned out to be the better investment, he said quietly. I was just too blind to see it. It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was honest. And from my father, honesty was rare enough to feel like grace. Thanks, Dad. He nodded. We watched the clouds. Some things can't be fixed, but some things can still grow. Late summer, a warm evening. Marcus and I sat on our back porch watching fireflies blink across the yard. The house was quiet. Our daughter had called earlier. She was doing well, thriving at her job across the country. Marcus had grilled steaks. I'd made my mother's potato salad recipe. You're different, you know, Marcus said after a while. Good different or bad different? Lighter. He reached over and took my hand. Like you finally put down something heavy. I thought about that. 30 years I'd carried a question. Why am I not enough? I didn't ask it anymore. Not because I'd found an answer, but because the question had stopped mattering. I think I finally stopped trying to prove anything, I said. About time. I laughed, a real laugh surprised out of me. We sat in comfortable silence. The fireflies drifted. The stars emerged, one by one. Marcus? Thank you for never making me feel like I had to prove anything to you. He squeezed my hand. You never did. I always knew who you were. Even when I didn't? Especially then. I leaned my head on his shoulder. This man who had loved me quietly for 25 years, who had never asked me to be smaller, who had held my hand through hospital meetings and family revelations and everything that came after. He taught me something my parents never did, that being loved shouldn't feel like an audition. I'm grateful, I said, for this, for us. Me too. We didn't need to say more. The fireflies said it for us, small lights in the darkness, steady and persistent. Like water, my mother had said. Steady, patient. Maybe that wasn't such a bad thing to be after all. Looking back now, I can see what I learned. It took 30 years of silence and one hospital meeting to understand these truths. Setting boundaries isn't rejection. It's self-preservation. I spent decades saying yes to people who never asked what I needed. Learning to say, "not like this," wasn't cruelty. It was clarity. The truth may hurt in the moment, but silence hurts for a lifetime. I could have kept that notebook to myself. I could have swallowed my words at the family meeting, like I'd swallowed them for years. But every time I stayed quiet, I lost a piece of myself. Speaking up was terrifying. It was also the only way to get free. You don't need anyone's apology to start healing. Victoria hasn't apologized. She may never apologize. For a long time, I thought I needed those words to move forward. But I was wrong. Her apology is about her conscience. My healing is about my life. They don't have to be connected. I have new rules now, new boundaries. They're not complicated. I will help my family, but I will not sacrifice myself. I will speak truth, even when it's uncomfortable. I will not accept being invisible just to feel accepted. Victoria may never truly change. My parents may not live long enough to repair everything that was broken. But I've changed. I see myself clearly now. I know my worth, not because someone finally acknowledged it, but because I stopped waiting for permission to claim it. The reliable one, my father called me. The practical one. The one who doesn't complain. He meant it as a description of someone lesser, someone who didn't need attention or investment. But I know the truth now. Being reliable isn't a consolation prize. It's a superpower. And I finally learned how to use it. If you've made it this far, if you're still here after hearing my story, I want to tell you something. You don't have to wait 30 years to be seen. I did. I waited for my parents to notice me, to value me, to choose me the way they chose my sister. I waited for an acknowledgement that never came, until I stopped waiting and started speaking. If you recognize yourself in my story, if you're the overlooked one, the backup plan, the child who was always fine because no one bothered to check, please hear me. You can speak up. You can set boundaries. You can demand fairness without demanding revenge, and you don't need their apology to start healing. Their apology is about them. Your healing is about you. My father asked me once, years ago, why I didn't become a doctor like he'd hoped Victoria would. I told him, because I chose to help people who have time left instead of impressing people who never had time for me. He didn't have a response back then, but after everything that happened, after the hospital meeting, after the truth came out, after 6 months of rebuilding, he told me something different. I should have been proud of you all along, he said. I should have seen who you were. And then he listened, really listened, for the first time. That's what 47 seconds of silence eventually became. A conversation. An imperfect one. A beginning. I used to think my story was about being invisible. Now I know it's about becoming visible. To myself, first. To everyone else, second. 47 seconds of silence changed my life. What will your moment of truth sound like? When will you stop waiting and start speaking? The answer is yours to find. I hope you find it soon. Thank you for staying with me through this entire story. If any part of it resonated with you, if you've ever felt unseen, overlooked, or treated like the family backup plan, please share your experience in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story helped you, please like, subscribe, and check out the video in the description. It's another story about standing up when everyone expected you to stay quiet. Remember, you deserve to be more than someone's reliable option. You deserve to be seen. I'll see you in the next one.